Hello.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Is it evening or afternoon? What are we?
Evening.
Evening.
I think so.
No, we're not. We're afternoon, are we not?
It's all that sun.
It's all that sun gone to my head. Good afternoon, Christopher. How the devil are we, darling?
I am fine and dandy. How are yourself?
I haven't heard fine and dandy for a long time. Very old school.
Good evening to the viewers. Thank you for those that are joining us. Welcome to Open Minds.
Yeah, welcome everybody. We're streaming live on YouTube. I'm not going to say the word simultaneously. Oh, I got it. Please share and like our posts. And we are at a different time today. There are some technical issues, so we're just waiting to see if our guest can log in to the StreamYard. If she's unable, you will have an hour interaction with Chris and Gloria. And
awesome.
so, what have you been up to, Chris?
All work, no play, me at the moment, Gloria.
No, I know.
I'm driving on at the minute, so I'm a new kitchen that's being fitted, so it's all go where I am.
Okay.
I'm on the cold out.
Ah.
I've been in the sun, yeah. I'm always in the sun, though, aren't I? I'm the rain. When God decides, go to the toilet, I cop it.
Audience, you have to know, prior to going live, Chris was making me laugh. So I do apologise. He was just being Chris Shearer. It's very nice to have him back on the show. Actually, Chris. I know. So what's going on in the world? I mean, it's just glorious weather, excuse the pun, in the Hot Fuzz Village. I once again have been in the garden all day. It's just beautiful weather. I'm just loving the sunshine. We've decided if our guest is unable to get on due to technical reasons, we will just chat for an hour and open up the chat room for questions. What do you think, Chris? Okay.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, we can. You can ask a question in the chat room, and we'll see if we can answer it. But that's if our guest is unable to get through. It's live. It's a live show, and these things happen. So we've had a few weeks. Our guest today is to be Rae, who's an experience of contact, and we have another guest next week. In fact, the next few weeks we have all experiences coming onto the show. So here we go. Yes, we have our guest. Here we go. Hello. Here we go. Hi, Rae. Welcome to Open Minds. Hi.
Thank you. It's good to see you again.
And you, sweetie. This is my co-host, Chris, at the top of the screen in the naughty corner.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah. What time is it? You're in California, yes?
Yeah, it's 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, we're at just coming up to 5:05 in the evening here, so a big time gap. So welcome to the show, Rae. I've been so looking forward to this after our conversation a few weeks ago. And we've got some glorious weather here in the UK at the moment. A bit like California, I think. So a very laid back, chilled evening. So basically, if you could just start at the beginning, Rae, what we spoke about before. It all started with an experience, and then everything changed. So could you tell our audience how it happened, where it happened, and was there anything leading up to it that you had any idea this was coming? And she's got a fantastic story to tell.
Okay, are you talking about the ET contact part of my life, where that started? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, I have to bring in the spiritual too, because that's a big part of it as well, which is a really big surprise. Not a lot of people are seeing or realizing yet that the ET presence of our star visitors has a lot to do with the evolution of our spirituality, raising our consciousnesses, I want to say. So whether you're spiritual or not, these experiences raise your consciousness. I mean, I've even known of atheists having their first contact experience, and suddenly they're becoming more spiritual. So how about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on one sec. Little morning morning allergies. Okay, so I guess it all started with, I was always very spiritual. I was actually raised a strict Roman Catholic, which is a religion. It's not spiritual, because spirituality and religion are two different things, in my opinion, very different. So I was raised very religious, which later progressed into spirituality as I left my religion behind, realizing it just wasn't doing it for me. And what changed my religion to spirituality was, many, many years ago, I was having a medical emergency, was in the hospital in Hawaii, and my heart stopped. And of course I had the NDE, a near-death experience, which a true near-death experience is not almost dying, but your body functions stop completely. So thus your consciousness leaves the body and you see what's possible. So that changed me from religion to spirituality. Okay, so years and years went by. Life happens. You have kids, you're working, all that. But then I guess the most profound change was, even though I was spiritual and had left my religion behind, Catholicism, I always still prayed to God, prayed to Jesus, prayed to saints, never anything else. It was that's what I was raised with. So I became very ill, and I had been sick for about 3 months. I had lost over 20 pounds, which brought me under 100 pounds because I was kind of thin to begin with. And the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. They tried every test they could think of, still couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And basically the symptoms were, and I've heard of this before with other people that have had spiritual awakenings, is they suddenly could not eat. Everything I ate came up or gave me such a huge stomach ache. I would be on the floor in pain. Nothing helped. So that's why I lost the weight. So it got to a point where I was so thin and so weak from not being able to eat that the doctor told me one day on my appointment that there's nothing left to do but put you in the hospital on a feeding tube. And that night I went home and I started praying, and I kind of knew intuitively, because I was already kind of a highly sensitive person, very intuitive. I just knew that if I went into the hospital, I wasn't going to be ever coming home again. I just knew it. So I decided not to go to the hospital and prayed to God that night and asked for help. And I just prayed and prayed. And I remember thinking and saying to God, I'm trying my hardest to stay in this life. I'm trying to stay, alive, but everything I try is not working. I put my life, everything that happens to me from here on, into your hands completely, which sounds like a really religious or spiritual thing to say, right? But that's what I did. That's what I did. So I felt a great peace before I went to sleep that night. And it was even on an empty stomach, and I went to sleep that night so peaceful and with resolve and self-resolve at my situation. And then I woke up. And when I woke up, and I want to say I've had previous surgeries before. So if you've ever had a surgery before, you wake up after your anesthesia and you see a big light, usually from the lights above you. Kind of like a dentist light. You see that when you wake up and you start to come awake. That's how I woke up. And I thought immediately, because of my past experiences with surgery, that, I must be waking up from surgery. But then reality kicked in and I said, wait, I wasn't scheduled for surgery. I was in bed praying to God. And I kind of started to get up and I realized I wasn't in a bed. I was on a metal table, a soft metal table, if you want to say. And I looked around and I saw a being to the left of me with some type of what I would say a scanner. It was probably about this long. And it was cylinder, oval cylinder, and it had a string of lights on it, very silver and shiny, and he was going like this back and forth across my abdomen. And I'm like, wait. And I just somehow knew, because I was always a fan, huge fan of Lost in Space, Star Trek, E.T. And so I just intuitively knew I'm not on Earth, I'm in a spaceship, and these are aliens. And when I started to get up out of panic, the person that was going like this, and he was wearing all white, and he had a very tight white, very humanoid looking. He suddenly stepped back like this and took a step back quickly, like he didn't expect me to wake up, which you would think that they would know everything, but no, you can surprise them. Apparently.
Many wake up. Yeah.
And then I suddenly felt telepathically, I kind of felt, because I don't want to say I was always telepathic, but I was always able to read other feelings of other people. I could, the thing where maybe you guys have experienced it, or anybody out there listening, is where you know someone so well, or even a stranger, that you know what they're going to say before they say it. That's kind of the beginnings of telepathy, of what it feels like.
Yeah.
So I felt that he was telepathically talking to someone behind me, and the person behind me was telepathically talking back to him, and suddenly I felt his hands, big, round, fat fingers, like almost mittens. And he had his hand behind the back of my very bottom back of my head. And when he touched the back of my head, I fell back asleep again. I woke up momentarily again. I don't know how long it had been. And I heard them telepathically talking, but I didn't understand their language. And I did recognize one thing, because it started to come in English. The one who had the scanner was talking to the person behind me, and he said something about my cerebrium. And after he said the word cerebrium, that hand came back and put me back to sleep again. And I had to look up cerebrium later, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but you guys can look it up and what actually that function is. But it has to do, I believe, with being conscious and awake. In fact, people that get a concussion and actually fall asleep from the concussion, you're unconscious, are ones that hit the back right here.
Yeah.
But he wasn't hitting me. He was just touching me. He somehow had this power, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear you. I understand.
Yeah. So then I had fallen back asleep again, and then I woke up again, kind of like falling gently back to my bed. And I want to say, too, that my dog, a Chihuahua, was sleeping next to me before I went to sleep. And when I came back, he was on the floor asleep. Perfectly fine. And when I woke up, it felt like I was about an inch above my bed and just dropped there. Yeah. And my blankets weren't over my feet like they were supposed to be. So they had put the blankets back, but had not covered my feet. I don't know why. Maybe that's to show. But then I remember starting to get up from bed, like in complete shock. And I telepathically heard a voice say to me very clearly and slowly, "Stay off your feet a few days." That's all they said. And then I fell asleep, and I didn't wake up till around 10 or 11. I don't remember a clock, but normally I wake up around 7 naturally. So for some reason, I didn't wake up till 10 or 11 that day. And when I got out of bed, I suddenly felt a pain in my side, the side of my abdomen. It was like a pinching pain. And I kind of looked, and there was a scar about an inch long. And the scar was covered with like a yellow gold line. Like you would see iodine, but it was more gold.
Yeah.
And that kind of brought into the reality that this really, really, really happened. you know.
Yeah, I was just going to say, at what point you seem very calm going through. I mean, they do keep you very calm. You're very peaceful. But at what point did you go, oh, this is real? At what point was it when you noticed the scar?
When I felt the pain of the scar and looked down, I go, oh my gosh, this is real. And then I became totally confused and conflicted because I had prayed to God. And when you pray to God for help, you expect maybe an angel or Jesus will come by, but an ET came by.
Yeah.
So I was so conflicted, and for a long, long time. I took pictures of the scar to prove to myself, not to others, that this had happened, because I kept this a secret. Like, who's going to believe you, you know?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So I had taken a picture of the scar, which I still have. And
can I ask you, sorry, before we go on, sorry to interrupt. What type of beings were they, the ones that you encountered on that experience?
I believe it was 2 different beings. And I did not see the face or the shape or what the person behind me looked like, but I could feel his hands. And they were very large, wide fingers. I can't, almost like the wideness and size of, I'm really into animals, and I had a lot of training with animal training and animal behavior. So I'd say like a gorilla, you know, the big wide hands. And I don't want to reference the alien as a gorilla. I'm just saying the hands. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the one beside me holding the scanner I did not see his actual face. I only saw what he was wearing. And as I was lifting my eyes up to see his face, that's when the other one had brought his hand in. It's like they didn't want me to see his face. So I did not see his face.
Okay.
Which probably would have freaked me out if it wasn't very human.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, but I know that next morning I suddenly felt hungry, and I was scared to eat because eating became scary for me. But I ate anyway, and nothing, no pain, nothing. So I thought, I'm going to eat some more. I open up the fridge and I start eating more. And I must have eaten constantly for 2 hours. I was so hungry. 2 weeks, I had gained half my weight back. I was eating, I was fine. You know, and then 2 weeks later, I was still really scared of what happened. Even though I was grateful that they had cured me, I was still scared and conflicted. And then 2 weeks later, I'm waking up in the middle of the night because I felt someone was watching me. The dog wasn't barking or nothing, but I felt like something was watching me. And I opened my eyes and realized I was paralyzed in bed. I couldn't move anything but my eyes. And I was facing my doorway on my, laying on my side. And I saw like what you would describe as a gray type alien. And he was looking behind the doorway, and one was at the foot of my bed. And I totally freaked out. So I again started praying, no, go away, no. And then I said the word Jesus. And the minute I said Jesus, as praying to Jesus, help me, there's like aliens in my room. They immediately left. And I don't believe they were there to cause me any harm. I felt intuitively they were there. They were curious. Maybe they were scientists and were curious. That's kind of what I felt later. But yeah, that began it.
That began. I've got to say, there must have been a massive, at that point, you would have gone through the gratitude, you've healed me. I'm really grateful. However, yes, you did call on God and ET come instead, but still. So there must have been a bit paradoxal with the gratitude.
Absolutely.
And even though you'd moved past the religious scripture to spirituality, there must have been like, what is going on? Because the whole of your reality changes when you have these encounters. Everything you thought was true is basically not, and you don't know what is true. So then you had the second visitation in the bedroom, the Greys. At that point, what was the most distinguishable thing that you noticed that changed in your reality? What was it? What was it that just, did you lose? I'm finding the words very hard to explain what I'm trying to say. Obviously, coming from personal experience, it's unexplainable. Did you find that I found that I could not step back into who I was, so to speak. Does that make sense to you? And as I moved forward, it was just allowing and not knowing, an absolute confusion.
Absolutely. It changes the paradigm of your previous beliefs, belief system, and how you were raised. It completely changes that. And there's a lot of mental and emotional conflict that goes on.
How did you deal with that?
With the foundation of my spirituality. I was a huge meditator. I meditated a lot. So meditation, and spending a lot of time in reflection and allowing and trying to understand. I'm not the type of person to just have an experience and block and say, no. Whenever I have an experience, I always knew intuitively it was a teaching moment. So that's how you deal with it, is allowing. And I suppose the word faith, but not in a religious way. Faith that there's a universal consciousness out there, and it's not bad.
No. It's not.
So you're trusting the system.
I use the word trust. There was a trust. I had a trust. I didn't come from a strict background. I had the word trust. I knew it was good and to trust it. I didn't understand it, but I knew eventually I would. So I just wanted for our audience, because at the moment, many are experiencing their first time contacts now, and we're all experiencing in different ways. So we're bringing experiences on the show weekly now to show from different perspectives to help the collective, it's okay if I do this. I mean, fear is a natural one at the beginning. It's like, the fear. Okay, so I've stopped you there. I do apologize. I just wanted to clarify that. What happened next?
Oh, wow. So I suppose the next year after that, I was having suddenly a lot of mostly daytime sightings of objects in the sky, UFOs or UAPs. Most of the time they were lights or orbs, huge, giant aluminum, white, almost translucent orbs would go sailing over my house slowly. You try to take a picture with your cell phone, but it doesn't come out. It just comes out as a tiny light, not like the actual orb. You know how it is. So I had a whole year of that, of having sightings every 1 to 3 months.
Could I ask you, I forgot to ask you, what did your doctor say? You were cured. What happened with the doctor?
I never went back to that doctor. I never went back. Like, what for?
I think that'd be an interesting conversation, wouldn't it? I woke up with a scar on my stomach and I'm suddenly cured.
I'm cured,
I've been cured of the doctor,
Actually, it's a good one to be cured of the doctor, I agree. I just thought I'd throw that one in because the audience would ask. But I've heard of many occasions of many healings happening, And I asked them, what did you do with your doctor? I just didn't go back. Why would I? So it's the same thing. It's a healing, and I mean, to me that is beautiful. I mean, and I have heard this many, many, many times. I've had a healing myself many years ago, so it's something. I can't even explain it. I still can't understand it. In my human mind.
Do you ever feel, or did you go through a period of feeling guilty that you were healed and others were not? Because that's part of it, right?
Yeah, the guilt trip. It was the guilt trip. Yeah.
Like, why?
Was cancer, and it was a guilt trip. Why me? Why not others? But that was for me to deconstruct the ego and the beliefs. It's for me to work through all of that. I got that in the end. But yes. So, when you hear that, we've been healed, and someone says, you're so lucky. No, there's a lot of things that come with it in the aftermath of an experience like that. It's not all, Hollywood, we're healed and, you're fine. No, you're psychologically, you're going through quite a bit of trauma to try and understand what the hell just happened to me. So, but we've digressed. We'll pull it back. We'll pull it back.
All right. So after about a year of the sightings, and it's interesting that I was never afraid of the sightings. In fact, if I'd see an orb going over my house or something, I'd chase after it. I would literally physically start walking for it. And I was never afraid of the sightings. They somehow inside excited me and made me feel happy.
Yeah.
Just something intuitive. I knew that this was a good thing. So about a year later, I actually started, instead of having sightings, I started more and more feeling the presence of, I would say, the non-humans. Certain non-humans, I would feel their presence. I would look up and see the starship. I would feel their presence. And sometimes I would feel like there was family inside that ship.
Yeah.
So a year later, I actually started having visitations in my room again.
Mm-hmm.
And they were of spiritual nature. One of the most profound was I had been doing. Are you guys aware of what CE5 is, or HICE?
I'm aware of the program. I am aware, but not many people are.
Okay. So what CE5 is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. HICE, which is the same thing, is human initiated contact experiences. So if you look up, you can see there's different. If you go to the CE5 initiative, you can get some more on Facebook. You can see more. But what it is you have a series of protocols where you go out into the field, usually late at night, and to put yourself in a calm state of mind and to raise your vibration so you're better able to talk to the non-humans and connect with them. You meditate, and sometimes you're playing a sound bowl, raising your consciousness, and you meditate about 20 minutes, most people, and then you kind of do some stargazing or sky watching, and you will suddenly usually see, I think it's successful maybe 90% of the time, you will see flash bulbs, which are the starships above you flashing, or you'll see the starship or orbs go by, or have other strange phenomena out in the field. Some will telepathically connect with those that are highly intuitive. So before I even knew about the CE5 groups, I was already telepathically connecting with them. So I remember meditating one night. It might have been on my birthday too. That made it more special. A lot of things happen on your birthday for some reason. I don't know if that happens with you guys, but
I can't say just on birthdays. No, anytime.
No. Yeah, for me, it's like special occasions, especially my birthday eve or something. But anyway, I had been meditating and trying to connect. Went to bed that night, and I woke up in the middle of the night feeling like a chest pull, not a heart attack feeling. I don't know what a heart attack feels like, but it was just like a strong pull at my heart center. And I didn't know anything about chakras at that time. So I felt this feeling that was so strong and so uncomfortable. I woke up and I look up, and there is a non-human being at the foot of my bed with the right hand raised, and he was wearing all silver. And it was of a fabric that did not look earthly to me. It was very, I can't even describe it. It was just a very flowy, not sparkly, but luminescent, but it was silver. And he had a hood on, probably covering his face, because I later found out he was an Arcturian, which are the more blue-skinned faces. Yeah. And he was holding his hand up, and I could feel and almost see an energy coming from his palm to my heart center. And I didn't understand what was happening. So he started to leave. And at the same time, I felt this great, great love, like incredible love, not for him, but just a triggered love for the universe, or that my true self was love, and I could feel it. And what he was doing actually was doing a heart chakra activation, or opening my heart chakra, because we have our chakras and sometimes they're blocked from experiences through your lifetime. He had opened my chakra, and it had been opened permanently. It wasn't just a fleeting thing. It was permanent, what he had done, which of course raises your consciousness. And your perception is changed, your paradigm changes again. Yeah. So, and I remember him leaving, and I telepathically said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Arcturian High Council." He did not give me an individual name, so I assume a representative of the Arcturian High Council. He later turned out to be my guide, one of my guides. And then I said, "What did you do? What are you doing?" And he said, "Initiation," which I'm still not entirely sure what that means to this day. But I have heard others speak that every time you go through a different step, raising your consciousness on your journey, that step is an initiation. Yeah.
The first one, way back in the day for me was obviously taken whatever, and I've just got the eyes to see. And I asked, "What are you doing?" And I mean, like you go and Google, or straight away as soon as you get out, because you don't know what these big words are. And he said to me, there was two, and he said to me, "We're osculating you." Oscillation. I was going, I don't know what that means. So as soon as the camera, I'm on there going, "Oh my God, raising the vibration." So I had that.
Okay. Interesting.
Means to oscillate, and I had no idea. But then I thought, okay, what vibration? Because back in the day, I didn't know nothing about chakras, nothing about anything. And I go, I've been oscillated, so I didn't know what that meant. But I understand, how I don't know what it means, but they're doing it. So it's a common factor. These terminologies come out that are not in your reality. They're not in your remit. But you never forget what they've said. And it's Google is your friend. Trust me.
I know. That's true.
I've been oscillated, and it sounded like, you what? And then later on speaking to others, I understood what had happened on that occasion. So I do resonate with you on that one.
Yeah, so, and I guess when they throw a word in your vocabulary that you've never heard of or unfamiliar with, that just makes it all the more real. Because how did I come up with that word? I never learned that in school. Like, what is that?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, the next one was macabre, or however you wish to say it. Yeah, Merkaba. There you go.
Like a Merkaba activation. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were doing this on me, and I go, "What are you doing?" And they said Merkaba, because I still can't say it.
Oh wow, that's neat.
And I'm going, what? And anyway, I get up and I'm Googling. Trying to, when you can't spell a word, Chris, and you're trying to pronounce it in letters, phonics. And I'm going, and I went, "Oh my God. Oh, there's what," but I still had no concept. It was just another word that was that they were doing this for me. I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, that's neat. You and I have, I spoke to you before, and you and I have very similar backgrounds and experiences.
We do.
Similar. Yeah.
Very, very similar.
Yeah.
Very close, we do, with the same beings. Yeah, do go on.
Yeah, so I guess I was, after that, I had other visitations in my room, but not all, but most of a spiritual nature. And I don't know, there's so many varied ones, but what it did was, something else happened where I started to get into the CE5 groups and the Mission Rhama groups out of Peru, which is the contact groups out of Peru. And it's interesting because CE5, the very, very beginnings of CE5, by the person who actually came up with the word CE5, Dr. Stephen Greer, that all took place about the same year as the Mission Rhama experiences started in Peru.
Yeah.
And so in the Spanish-speaking community, you have this rise of the Mission Rhama group, which is ET contact. And then in the West, we have, and the English-speaking, we have the rise of the CE5 groups, which are now almost mutating or changing into a term called HICE, H-I-C-E. But they're the same thing. It's ET contact. It's something that probably baffles the governments, because we're sitting around and recently waiting for disclosure. People are sitting around, when is the government going to tell us that aliens exist? And it's like thousands of people already know this through heists and the mission Rhama. It's like disclosure's already here. It's already happening. We don't need to wait for the government to tell us it's so. And that's the way it is.
I mean, you touched on that now. I mean, I've said it enough times, I won't say it anymore. However, I'm pleased, finally, they are sort of dripping it out, you know, to tell the people.
Dripping is the word.
Dripping. We've lied for 70 years, and you know, it's like my daughter said to me the other day, Mum, you were called a loony bin, a tin hat foil. I was called every name you could think of back in the day because I believed. And, you know, now I can say, you know, I can say it and no one laughs at me no more. That's nice. Okay, that's nice, I must admit. However, I've always known, and there's millions of people around the world have always known. And at the moment, as Chris knows, in the groups that are coming up now, and I haven't experienced this group, there's contact continuous, one after the other, and they're contacting humanity. They are so not going to the government as people would think they should. That's a human way of thinking. So yes, it's lovely. It's very nice, and I'm very pleased. But yeah, so let's continue.
So I had so many sightings that I did what a lot of people do, is they go, I forgot what the website was because I haven't really done this in a long time, but when you have a sighting, you can go to a website and it's associated with MUFON. And so I would do reports on all my sightings. So it turns out this MUFON guy contacts me and he's like, why are you having all of these sightings? I mean, that's really unusual. And I'm like, really? Is it? And so I started talking to him, and I think I must have talked to him for over an hour on the phone. And I guess it was just fate, because this MUFON director from the region where I live said, you know what, you really need to get in contact with a Dr. Joseph Burkes or Dr. Stephen Greer. So Google. I went on Google and I looked them both up, and I resonated most with Dr. Joseph Burkes. Are you familiar with him?
No, Stephen Greer for many years.
So Dr. Stephen Greer and Dr. Joseph Burkes were at one time worked in the same emergency room hospital. So they almost in a way co-founded and started the CE5 movement or whatever. But now they're on their separate paths. Okay. Yeah. So, but I contacted Dr. Joseph Burkes, and he talked to me through it. He was so experienced with everything that I was going through, because, you know, it's hard, as you know, when you're going through all this. It's good to talk to somebody that doesn't say you're crazy. And at that time, I still hadn't even come out to my family about it, you know, which is another story. But because, you know, it sometimes runs in families.
It does run in families. And it's a blessing for me that most of my family have passed over, so I don't have to go down that line. But I am aware of close relatives.
And at the time, I didn't know it ran in families until I actually came out of the UFO closet to my family, because everyone was keeping it a secret. No one was telling each other about it. So I talked to him, and he had contacted me back immediately after I emailed him. And he helped me through it. And then he introduced me to the CE5 groups and what CE5 was. So I started practicing more regularly. And there's usually groups, but where I live, kind of in a suburb, there's no CE5 groups around me. So I always did it solo or non-solo, which is where you arrange the time and you connect with others doing it. You might connect with others in the field. And then he also told me about Enrique Villanueva, who was with Mission Rhama in the United States. So by and by, it's interesting because the very next year, Enrique Villanueva decided to have an English-speaking Rhama mission contact workshop in Mount Shasta. yeah, so I attended that, and I've attended that for the past 5 years now. And, you know, Mission Rhama is a little bit different contact than CE5. With CE5, it's more about using different instruments, more science, more scientific, so that they can prove, have proof for others, okay? And Mission Rhama is more, you work on your inside, you work on yourself so that you are better able to talk to them telepathically. And as you grow, the group grows, and as you grow and the groups grow, spiritually it changes the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, I lean to the latter. I'm on the spiritual growth. Do the work on yourself, belief systems, not to the scientific side. I did all the scientific years ago, and I just does your head in. So,
yeah, and by scientific, I want to say that science and spirituality will someday meet, you know, in the middle, as one, because science is spirituality. It is spiritual because spirituality is scientific. A lot of the things you do with working with your chakras, raising your vibration, in the future, that will be science. That's how it works. Right. And it raises your consciousness, and you have all this great stuff going on. Right. So,
quantum physics and all of that.
Right. So,
been there, gone through that. But I'm like yourself. The other side, I'm coming, but it's no wrong or right way to go, whatever you choose.
Both sides are necessary to realize this, right? So by scientific, CE5 uses like laser pointers. They use all kinds of like EMF meters and, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. Makes it for more exciting, but it's like stepping stones, you know. You might start out with the CE5 and then progress into the more Mission Rhama approach, you know. It's a stepping stone. They're all necessary.
Yeah. They are all, I mean, back in the day, you know, the science part, the quantum physics and all of that, that was necessary for me to have an understanding of what the spiritual aspects that were coming, because I knew them. The science of spirituality, I just knew it because I'd gone previous to the first stage. Chris, we women are chatting for England. I know you're enthralled. Do you want to ask any questions?
Where are you from, Chris?
Wigan, England.
Oh, you're in England. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not saying anything.
No, because I chat for England. I always take over. I do it every week.
I'm listening. I'm taking it
Chris,
all
is anything on, Chris? Anything you want to ask?
What's your most fascinating experience with your encounters that you've had?
Well, it's not the healing belief. Yeah.
And also, like, what has it brought to you? Obviously, the journey that you've had from the experience when it started. What's changed? Because I know the consciousness changes, doesn't it? It alters, the energy shifts. What's the change it brings in now to you as opposed to when it initially started, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so the first question was I would say the most profound is not what you think. It wasn't the healing that saved my life. That wasn't the most profound. And I think I brought this up. It's almost a taboo subject, but I'm going to say it. I brought this up with you, Gloria, and the most profound was that through ET contact, they helped facilitate in me something that probably wouldn't have happened for another 3 or 4 lifetimes of you know, living on the earth or whatever planet, because it takes a long time. But through them, I was meditating one night and felt the presence of my ET guides, or the Arcturians, very strongly. Then I felt tingling in my head that went and what that was a permanent, huge, full Kundalini awakening. They had facilitated it, which again, paradigm stuff going on. It's like, what are they doing? It's like, so, and when you have, and you know, I was like you, Gloria, when about 2 weeks before this happened, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would hear whispering in my ear. And the word was Kundalini, Kundalini, Kundalini. It was whispering in my ear. And I'm like, what is Kundalini? So I Google it and I'm like, still didn't understand it. And it's one of those things you don't understand until you've had the actual experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I had the, so that was the most
one, Chris. You know what Kundalini is, don't you, Chris?
Yeah.
The Kundalini awakening,
the serpent and the energy rising from the base.
Yeah. Right, and when you have a full-on Kundalini awakening like I did, it's 24/7 for the rest of your life once it's fully awakened. Most people, especially if it starts to awaken in their younger years, will go slowly at a trickle. They may not even know they've had a Kundalini awakening, or maybe once every year, once every 3 months, they'll feel the sweep. Of the energy going up your chakras. And of course that raises your consciousness and, but when you've had a full open one, it's 24/7. It's like, I still wake up in the mornings with the sweeps and the tingling and everything. And I'll have it for the rest of my life. And that's the biggest change. That's the biggest change. And the question is why would these beings, these our star family, why are they coming to Earth? Because I'm not the only one this has happened to. Many people in the CE5 community, many people in the Rhama mission community have had Kundalini awakenings after ET contact or during. You got to ask why, It's part of the plan to raise the evolution of Earth, to help save the environment, to help save humanity. That's part of the plan. That's why they're doing it, to select people. Yeah. Wow. So that would be the most, and how it's changed my life is, I feel like, and this sounds cliche, but I feel like I have a mission now. I don't feel so lost.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You don't feel like you're supposed to do something, and you try this and you try that, and and I love that. No, I don't want, and then you keep going, and then all of a sudden, you have a mission, but you don't know what it is, and it doesn't matter. You don't need to know what it is, but there's no purpose, there's no anything. It just is what it is, and that's fine by me. And you just allow it. And I always say, the more you allow it, the more beautiful it gets, because it's just and it's like going down the rabbit hole. It gets curiouser and curiouser, and it's so much fun. So much fun.
It gives your life a purpose. You don't wake up in the morning. I mean, you still do as you're going through this Kundalini process is extremely physically, emotionally, and spiritually taxing. It's very difficult. It is the most difficult spiritual path you can be on, in fact. And I want to say too that the younger you are, that you have a spiritual awakening, the slower and more gentle the process is. I had this Kundalini awakening. I think I was 56 when I had it. And when you have it at an older age, it's much more, how would you say, it's much stronger, a lot stronger. It's like it's making up for lost time.
Yes. Don't keep me on the subject, because I have memories, and we've discussed that. What happened to me?
It's out of the box.
It's just, you can't even articulate it. It's just unbelievable. So coming back, what I want to touch on, and thank you for sharing that. Obviously, you're like myself. You have a positive aspect to ET contact. Okay, so and that Chris does as well. I want to ask a couple of questions, but one is, have you experienced other than the Greys and the Arcturians, any other civilizations?
Yes, I have. Well, I'm an artist, as you know, Gloria. You and I are both great artists. You are a lovely artist. I love your work.
Thank you.
I don't know. Are you an artist too, Chris? Do you dabble?
If you put a paintbrush in my hand, it'll be everywhere. No, there's no artist in me.
Maybe someday.
I have words are my thing. Rae more than for my creative aspect.
Well, that's very similar because you're pulling from the inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had experience out in the field with, and I don't know the names of these races. All we have are these English or earthly terms for our understanding. And you've heard of the ones where you've had insectoid type that look like the ants or praying mantis. The Hopi Indians told stories of the ant people. And this is who I believe that I met in Joshua Tree, which is a desert in California. And we were on a CE5 expedition with CE5 San Diego. And we were all sitting out in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And we had been meditating. And then we started the two girls in the group. There was only two girls in the group. We are actually the ones that sensed the beings there. The guys, one guy did see it kind of through his third eye, but the ant people. So, and here's a picture I painted of him.
Wonderful.
And what's interesting is that according to him, when I talked to him telepathically, he said that he didn't indicate he was from another star system or another place or another. He was kind of dimensional, fading in and out. So I believe he was probably fourth or fifth dimension. But he said that his race was of and from the earth.
Yeah.
So he's been here a while, out in Joshua Tree. Then I heard stories, I think even from Dr. Greer and his groups, that there are these individuals that actually, and this is before I knew that, actually that there's like underground different dimension cities, kind of like in Shasta, there's other dimension city called Telos. Mm-hmm. So that's where these guys came from.
I'm going to ask Chris. Chris has seen the praying mantis.
That's very similar to the mantis.
Yeah. So that's praying mantis. This one is more an ant, more of an ant. Yeah.
It's got the same shape.
Yeah.
Of head, but obviously the colours completely different with the mantis. I have encountered the praying mantis.
Oh, that's neat.
I called it a mantris. Well, actually, it told me it was mantris, not mantis. And I just spat them words out. But I've encountered that strange experience. But, yeah.
Were you out alone somewhere, or they appeared to you, or?
No, he wasn't.
No.
He was there.
I was sat where I am now, and they just came forward and made the. See, what happened with me was it was going on for a while, and Gloria pointed out. I always had tinnitus, or what I thought was tinnitus.
Good. That's a good subject too, by the way.
we heard the noises. I wouldn't say clicking. It's like cricket. You know, you get the cricket noises. That type of.
I've heard that noise in my ear. I know what you're talking about.
And Gloria went and said, "Can you not hear it, Chris?" I'm like, "What are you talking about here?" Because obviously I have.
I could hear it.
All the time.
Wow.
So anyway, she recorded it, sent it to me, and then to cut it short, I went, "Oh, I hear that all the time, Gloria. What are you talking about? I don't know any different." So it had been going on all that time. I was oblivious, and that's when the praying mantis appeared and showed itself to what it was that was making the noise. To put it make sense for me, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, the tendinitis. There's a huge thing where I've had the tendinitis. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong or with a weird accent, but I've had that all my life, even as a child. So much so that I thought that was normal. And when I found out later as a teenager that that's not normal, that most people don't hear that, I thought, well, that's weird. But through my spiritual training, I went through over 25 years now of spiritual training, having lessons from Self-Realization Fellowship that's all over the world now. And it's actually from Paramahansa Yogananda, his organization, and he teaches the Eastern philosophies and the Eastern spiritual techniques, which are also scientific techniques to help raise your vibration and raise you spiritually. So he suggested and taught that Titanitis is most of the time, if you're having it all the time, is not just a problem with your ears. It's, because they don't really, scientists don't even know what it is for sure.
No.
But he says what it is you are so sensitive that you're actually hearing the astral sounds going up your spine. So you have the bone spine, and then you have the Sushumna channel, which is, you have like 3 different levels in your body. Your body is made of 3 different levels. One is the physical, one is, that's the dense. Right. And then you have the ethereal, and then you have the causal. So that is the astral sounds going up your spine. That's what he says it is. So yeah. So that's what I learned. But you're right about the clicking. I've had the clicking before, and then had an experience, or a sudden loud gong in my ear, or the high-pitched ringing. And when I get that now, I stop and I relax and I pay attention.
Wherever I am, I could be outside in a shop, and it goes ding, and I go, and everyone looks, and I'm like, pay attention, pay attention. And it's automatic. I've done it for so long. I just go, not in the shop, please, not in the shop. But yes, it's but then Chris has also, you've seen a reptilian, haven't you, Chris? He had a reptilian.
A reptilian that freaked me out the first time it appeared. My heart sank. When you were talking about, do you know the heart chakra, and you were saying that pulling sensation, I could relate to that, because that's the type of feeling I had afterwards for quite some time, as Gloria will know, because obviously I'm a medium anyway, I do my mediumship, but it had an impact on it, because I got that pulling feeling that you were talking about, and then the loving feeling that comes in.
Yeah.
But it changes, alters at times. So you have like a tightness that's there, like you can't understand it, and then the feeling that comes in. So when you were talking about that, I thought, I can relate to that. I've never been abducted, which I find fascinating.
That's interesting that you're saying a reptilian facilitated that, because most people, when they hear about reptilians, they think, oh, they're not either real or they're bad. But you saying that, that's really wonderful to hear, actually. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think maybe because I was none the wiser about the talks of them being bad. Do you know what I mean? I only found that out afterwards. I wouldn't have an opinion on it. Do you get what I mean? The only opinion I had when it showed itself, and I went, and it was dark and it was night time, and I went, do you know what I mean? So that's when the feeling, it whispered down my ear first as well afterwards.
You're lucky, You're lucky you didn't have an opinion on it, because, it's what the media is what does that. All of these alien movies.
I never really knew about the aliens, to be fair. So I just never had an interest in it. I called them light beings that were with me from a child, but it's not about me this anyway, it's about you, Ray. So I'm just going to say I had the light beings when I was a child. Maybe I had the awakening, the Kundalini aspect, what you talked about. I never felt a major change. I just went through a development. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Where I felt the vibration raise and change, but not a major impact on me. But I did have a kidney transplant, so I think because of that trauma, maybe that was my awakening stage where I didn't get. But yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of major physical traumas causing awakenings, even a Kundalini awakening. But what I've learned is that if you have a Kundalini awakening, you are ready for it. That even if you have one from an overdose of too many drugs, that it was your time and you were ready for that process, because it's still considered quite rare. And it never happens unless you're ready. I mean, you can do years and years of meditation or different types of yoga and still never have a Kundalini awakening. It happens when your soul is ready for it.
When your soul is ready. I remember way back in the day hearing Kundalini, and I'm going, oh, it's only for certain people. Kundalini. As I told you, Ray, the day I sat there, I was like, first was fear. And then it just allow.
Yes,
I'd never experienced energy of that in the whole of my life.
And there is no other stronger energy on this earth than the Kundalini Supreme Life Force energy. That is the strongest energy on earth.
And it was scary, I've got to say. Because people talk about Kundalini and love and light, and I'm going, oh, that sounds lovely. I want to experience that.
It's not all love and light.
No, it's not. It's physical. It's really physical in the body. Physical, and that's why I had fear at first until they said allow, and as soon as I allowed, it just vroom, 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 and I was like,
yeah.
So
I was. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
There's a slight. I'm sorry. There's like a delay when we talk. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
No. Sorry. So do you get the visits regular now?
They have slowed down, but I want to say that the visits I get now are in my heart. I will meditate. I have a question, something's bothering me, and I get immediate telepathic help. They're right there. The guides are right there guiding me, one guide or another. Like the other day, about a week ago, I had some questions. I was bothered. I started meditating and with the question in mind, like I usually do. And I open my eyes and I look outside, and all of a sudden appears the archangel Raphael with a long, and he talked to me and gave me advice and helped me. So sometimes an angel might appear, sometimes it will be an ET or non-human from another dimension. But it's when I want. It's like I ask for help and I get it. And it's no more where they suddenly appear. It's like I ask them, come and help.
Do you feel your religious background influenced in any way an awareness in the first place? I just thought I'd ask that. I just find
my religious an awareness of what?
To have understanding of something else.
That's a good question.
If you think about religion, people, we talk about a God, don't we? And everyone has different God. So it's talking about a belief in an invisibility, if you like, to some aspect of it. So I just found an interesting question to ask you.
It is. It's a good question.
Just your background. That wasn't your choice. Well, wasn't a choice. Obviously, it was the family and the environment you were in. But your background, religious-wise, did that have an impact or an influence on the shift that took place?
It was part of my life plan. I believe, because of my NDE and other experience I've had, I believe in rebirth or reincarnation, whether it be on this planet or another planet. We've had lifetimes everywhere. Sometimes it's not considered a lifetime because we're in another dimension resting our soul or whatever. But being born into this situation, into my family where they were Catholics, strong Catholics, it fit my previous lifetime. So it was, it fit until it didn't fit. So, yes. So I would say the religion was more of a, not experience, but knowledge that I needed to go forward. Yeah. So I'm not going to religion bash at all, because for many people, it's a start. It's better than. I didn't mean it in that way. I didn't mean it in a. Well, I know you didn't. Oh, I know you didn't. I just like, some people are like, oh, religion is bad. It's like, she dropped religion, but the belief of God was there before I had the religion. Even from a young age, I just intuitively felt it. The belief of something more and out there was already there from previous lifetimes and experiences. So the religion gave me a knowledge of angels that I didn't really believe existed until they did appeared. A belief in God, but not knowing what God or who God was until now. I refer to God as source.
Yeah.
So it was like, It's like you're in kindergarten and you're going farther. Each step is necessary, and then you can throw away what you don't need anymore. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
It's really wonderful for us because every week we're having different experiences on the show, and obviously from their truth and their perception. However, it's the same message that comes through, which is wonderful, and that the collective is now picking up. I mean, I'm hearing from other people, all the experiencer groups are now really getting initiated everywhere, more so since, the government's now said, yes, UFOs are real, they're real, whatever. But it's really, I say it with a smile, because they're still going to try and take some control. They're going to try and fail. But everyone's saying the same message about these beings. I know from the experiencer groups, we had Eric Mitchell on last week. He came back last week, and he was talking about his experiencer group, what's happening in there. I have an experiencer group with a lovely lady called Karen, and what's happening there is I'm going, I spent all my life going through this, and you just get it like, fucking no. I feel like I've been here for eternity, and it's just happening. It's just people are awakening to who they truly are. I think it's coming from the beings, the raising of consciousness, and also people that it wasn't in their reality before. They're ready to say that I feel like I know them. I'm connected to them, which is wonderful. Family. And so I personally, being slightly older than you, I think, slightly by a year, I've seen the shift. The shift. Only a year, I think, or two, maybe.
Come on, age is relative. Because actually our soul is about 1 million years old.
I've got to tell you, my soul tonight feels 1 million years old. It really does. But I'm seeing it on a daily basis. I walk down the street now, Dee. I hear people talking about the UFOs freely.
Yes, it's amazing. Where you didn't get that 5 years ago.
No, you would have been locked up 5 years ago and laughed at and ridiculed. So I'm seeing a reality shift, but it's shifting faster and faster and faster. And meeting people and talking to people that are having these experiences, coming out of the closet, like we all have to do in the end. I dragged Chris out the closet, didn't I? I dragged him. Chris, tell everyone about your reptilian experience.
It's very hard for some people, but when the time is right. Otherwise, it's okay to be in the closet until you feel safe and you know the time is right. Yeah.
And I think at this point, it's experiences are stepping up now, and it's like they've all been switched on.
Yeah, the fascinating part is though, because it's good that everyone's sharing their experience, because you see faces, you see things all the time, but obviously it's not all just the grey. Everyone sees different aspects of what's out there, but they're should be none the wiser of what they're seeing until everyone shares and gives them that insight. I mean, so
back to, I guess we were talking about the different beings. This was one that this one was from the Seven Sisters Pleiades. She appeared to me holographically. That's what the impression looked like, a holograph in my room.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You have to take some pictures of them and send them to us, and we'll put them on the page. Okay.
Oh, okay. And then let's see, this one from where was he from? And how do you say that?
Andromedus,
I think. Starts with a C. It'll come back. Yeah, and then this was the Arcturian, guide. Now you look at him, and he looks very Native American in look, right?
Yeah.
That's suspicious, right? You hear the Native Americans in the North Americas talking about these beings all the time. They call them their star family, and he looks Native American.
And they will relate to him as the blue. So are they? So is that what? I didn't know they were. I've watched documentaries where they talk about these beings, and they always mentioned they were like the skin color of blue.
Right, that's
never
Arcturians.
Well, yeah, Arcturians. I never knew they were referring to them. Wow.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it is. Yeah, and they say that the Arcturians are the most spiritual of all. And most of my visitations are from the Arcturians, and I have Arcturian guides.
Yeah.
Too. But I believe they're from a different dimension. You know, they're not from a different planet. They're from a different dimension. Like layers.
That's my truth too. It's they're dimensional beings. Some of the ETs, what we call them, are actually terrestrial beings that have been here all the time.
Right.
But I believe that's just my personal truth. The Arcturians that I had a visitation from in January, Christmas, they're dimensional. They're dimensional. They don't come from another planet and go through so many millions and billions of miles. No, it's all dimensional. So I'm in agreement with you on that. But it's nice, as Chris just said, when we come together, we're learning of new, I don't want to say the word species, that sounds terrible, other sentient beings of
That's
different...
sentient
other
beings.
Sentient beings.
That's a Star Trek term.
Yeah, other sentient beings. You know, we've got to start changing our language now. I remember when Chris said, I've seen this reptilian, I'm going, what? I mean, it's a natural instinct, but, you know, and that's, wow. And then go on.
I was just going to say, what's fascinating as well, sometimes they appear to what you can cope with.
Yeah.
What you're ready for.
So what you're ready for sometimes is not the true vision of what they are. That's
a good point. Good point.
So obviously Chris was ready for a reptilian for some reason.
Well, I was always told I had 3 light beings originally that used to look after me, guide me, or in that concept. A shamanic practitioner that said it. But I do remember going back when I was a child and sensing someone in the room, but I couldn't see it, and being a scaredy cat as you are, do you know what I mean, hide under the covers. And then obviously I got older, they came back and confirmed it, but I still couldn't see them. But it was in the feeling that confirmed it, do you know what I mean, when I was talking about it and asking the questions, and I got the cold shiver go down my spine again. So, but then things appeared. But then when I saw a reptilian, that reptilian could have been with me all them years, but I'm on the right. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't the right time to suddenly appear and go, well, this is right.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that some people that I meet, I look at them and I instantly can feel and almost see with the third eye that they were surrounded by a particular ET or a particular sentient beings. And when I look at Chris, I can see that in you, that you have a very close tie with at least one sentient being that's with you, that's always been with you. I can see that. Yeah. So it's you know, it makes me wonder, because it's almost like people like you are actually maybe even from a different planet or a different dimension, and you're here on Earth for a good reason.
Yeah, I say it all the time. He's off
planet. Yeah, it's like it's written all over his face. That's your aura.
Yeah, he's definitely off planet. I've tried to kick him off this one. He doesn't go anywhere.
We need him.
We need him. We need him. Before we close, I mean, there's just so much to talk about, and I do get a bit selfish, because you know me. He knows I love talking to fellow experiences. I'm just because it keeps validating and reaffirming my own. You know, it really does. So it's wonderful to have these open conversations. At last, we're allowed. Where do you think, this is an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it. Where do you think we are with the collective consciousness awakening? How well do you think we're doing with all that you're aware of at the moment? How do you think we're doing?
This earth realm, this 3-dimensional earth realm.
Yeah.
First of all, I guess there is a goal, a scale. third dimension rises to the fourth dimension. And I know people are saying, oh, it's going to go from the third to the fifth, but no, it's going to go from the third to the fourth dimension to the fifth. Earth will be rising. It doesn't raise physically, it raises consciousnessly. And where we are right now, when I think about that, I feel sad because I'm so sensitive, hypersensitive, empathic. I feel so much that's not going well around the world, you know, the crisis. And I'm not just talking about the pandemic, this current pandemic. I'm talking about mostly war, you know, and all of these refugees going on in other parts of the world. That makes me feel sad, and that makes me feel like it's not raising fast enough, you know, because that their hurt is my hurt. That's what happens when you're an empath, you know. It's hard to separate that, but I do see it's moving forward. It's going, but not spiritually enough, or scientifically enough.
So from your truth, you've got the platform. Here you go. You've got the platform. No pressure. What do you think? What message would you give to people to help accelerate this, to get this going? Would it be working on themselves to raise their consciousness? And, you know, what advice would you give to help?
Well, it's hard to tell people that's not used to working on themselves. And you can even look upon your own, where you live, you know, looking at other people at the grocery store, or just working upon themselves. I think that we can help by setting an example. That when you and anybody listening can raise their vibration and walk to the grocery store or walk down the sidewalk, when you see a stranger, don't look away. Don't give them a rude look because they're homeless. Reach out to them, open their hearts with your own love. That's what we need to see more of. And when people work on themselves, that naturally happens. And that's why they are the ETs. Sentient beings are here helping Earth to evolve faster, is to open our own hearts, to raise our consciousnesses so that we become, this is cliche, the light. And the light's infectious. That's how it has to be done. We have to reach out more and help with unconditional love.
Because to me, these beings are unconditional love. They are unconditional love. And, you know, everyone's got, you know, I used to say, oh, I wish it would hurry up. I wish it'd hurry up. And then all of a sudden you realized it's exactly where it should be. However, everyone has a choice. And how I want the reality to go is my choice. And so it's a responsibility we all have to take in the choices we make. If it's for humanity, so to speak, or not. So I realized, okay, responsibility is choices. You know, I had to work. I'm still working on myself. I mean, I have to work on myself working with Chris. So we go, you know, ego comes in, doesn't it, Chris? And you know, on a serious note, I think, you know, humanity, it took itself to a stage. All it does is kill, maim, torture, rape. It's all about monetary systems, and you just see again and again the dehumanization of the sentient being, the human being. And I think we're moving past that.
Suppresses the human experience, suppressed who we are. To suppress who we are, it's power, greed, control, and no compassion.
Exactly.
Fellow person or fellow life.
Like a narcissist up there, just controlling everything. But I'm seeing now humanity awakening from that, breaking away from the narcissistic control, and realizing I've got to make these choices. I've got to help someone. You've got to inspire another being, or tell them, do you know who you truly are? And that's happening more and more. So I'm making choices to accelerate. That's my choice. It's all I can do.
Right.
And you know, for me, I'm more optimistic than you are. I'm more.
Well, you know what? I'm optimistic, but you know what? I kind of feel intuitively that I came from another previous lifetime where it was more utopish. I had more of that experience. So when I came to Earth, and you know, I've had many lifetimes on Earth too, but when I came to Earth this time, I really felt the difference. I really felt it, and I could see what's wrong and what's working and what's not on this Earth planet. So it does get overwhelming when you're hypersensitive. But you know, if the ET contact experiences and disclosure, as that goes up, the consciousness of the planet goes up. So it's working together. And that in the last 5 years, seeing that change so fast, that's very positive, and that's good to see. But sometimes, you know, being an empath, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like on Star Trek, Deanna Troi, where she suddenly goes, oh my gosh, I feel something. You know, if you've seen that show. And that's how I feel like sometimes.
I understand.
Yeah, you really have to maintain a balance, you know, when you see and feel so much.
So we're going to end on that positive note, Chris. We've gone into overtime, well over overtime. Rae, it's been so interesting hearing about your experience. And we can also see your beautiful artwork behind on your wall. She's a very, very talented artist, and we didn't realize we had so much in common. And thank you for sharing your experience. It does make a difference.
Send me one photo of the drawings that you've done as well.
If you take a picture of what you just did and send them, and then we'll put them up on our thank you post when we put a post up later to thank you.
Okay, all right. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Oh, it's been an honor and a privilege. So what's going to happen now before we close? Chris is going to put you into the naughty room. So you'll go off live camera, but yes, into the naughty room you must go. And I'll be with you in a minute, so will Chris.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, wow, we've gone well into overtime. Oh my gosh, wasn't that fantastic?
That was it.
That was informative.
Well, I learned something today as well.
I've learned a lot today, very informative. Right, on that note, guys, thank you everyone for watching. Please share and like our page. We're on YouTube too. You could watch it later if you couldn't catch it all now. And as I said, we're doing a run of ET experiences. And next week we have Paul Askoff, I think I've said it correctly, who's a UK. We have a UK experiencer coming on. We've had Americans all the way through. Next week, more will be on our page in the week to give a greater detail about Paul. We thank you today for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next Sunday, which will be at the normal time of 11 a.m. UK time. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and bye for now. Chris, good night.
You got it. It's good night from her.
And it's good night from him. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you.